Hello, everybody. It's Randy Ray. I'm at Driftwood Ranch, and I'm talking about another list of books that I found. This one, unfortunately, is not in a poster, but I'm thinking it might be a more interesting list, albeit maybe a little bit less random than the list that was on the poster the other day. And what I'm talking about today is the Rory Gilmore Reading Challenge, which I'm not even sure I knew was a thing until recently, but apparently some of the bigger booktubers and some of the girly booktubers, the booktubers who aren't necessarily hanging out in my corner of booktube, have done several videos a week in the life of reading like Rory Gilmore. So I don't know how many books that Rory Gilmore read on the show The Gilmore Girls you could get to in just a week, but there's a list over at List Challenges with the 339 books that Rory is reading on the show. And by the way, if you haven't watched The Gilmore Girls, it's terrific. Extremely well written, great dialogue, good acting. It aired from 2000 to 2007. So the fact that this Rory Gilmore Reading Challenge is still a thing, the Rory Gilmore Reading Challenge is still a thing, is pretty interesting to me. So most of the videos I saw on YouTube about this, because I saw one video from Jack in the Books, okay, and that made me think, well, I wonder if there's other people who've written about this, because people love lists, right? So I went to YouTube and typed it in the search bar. There's a whole bunch of videos about this, but most of them seem to be from 6 to 12 months ago. I don't know, go figure. But I thought this time I would go through the list and talk a little bit about the ones that I've read and not talk very much about the ones that I haven't read. Because if I talk about every single book at any kind of length for 339 books, this is going to be a really long video. Even talking about the few books on here that I have read, and I'm guessing I've probably read about 1 out of every 5 of these books. I looked it over before I started making this video. Anyway, I'm just going to start talking about the list, okay? I have it up on my computer here. I will link to it down below if you want to go through and take the challenge. The important thing about lists like this is that they create discussion. So the first one on the list is George Orwell, 1984. Yes, I've read 1984. I read it in 1984 when I was 14 years old and liked it very much. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, I think, along with The Great Gatsby and maybe To Kill a Mockingbird, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn has a right to call itself the great American novel. And yes, I've read it multiple times. I have a Norton Critical Edition around here somewhere. Alice in Wonderland, of course, I read this to my daughters when they were little. I'm sure I read it at some point before that. It's great. The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, that's one of those books I've always intended to read but haven't read yet. An American Tragedy by Theodore Dreiser, I know nothing about it. Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt, I have a copy of but haven't read it yet. Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, I have not read. Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl. Yes, I've read it. Gets me right here. That's a pretty emotional book to read. The Archidamian War, never heard of the war or the book there. The Art of Fiction, nope. The Art of War by Sun Tzu, nope. As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner, nope. Ian McEwan, Atonement, nope. Autobiography of a Face, nope. This is going to get real boring if I haven't read more of these books, isn't it? The Awakening by Kate Chopin, nope. Babe, the Gallant Pig, I haven't even seen the movies. Backlash, The Undeclared War Against American Women. That sounds like something I would like to read. Balzac and the Little Chinese Seamstress, nope. Bel Canto, Ann Patchett, nope. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. Heard of it. It's been recommended to me. I haven't read it. Beloved by Toni Morrison. Sula by Toni Morrison is a book that I've read, but I haven't read this. Beowulf I read in high school, and I read again recently, but I didn't make a video about it because some other booktuber friends of mine were doing multiple translations of Beowulf, and I think I only read one of the translations. The Bhagavad Gita, no. The Bilski Brothers by Peter Duffy, no. Bitch, in Praise of Difficult Women. If you know anything about the kind of women that I'm attracted to, and you probably don't because you don't know me personally, but I like really opinionated women. I have an ex-girlfriend who claims that one of the reasons we broke up was because she had such strong opinions. And I had to point out to her, that's not it at all. If you think that's the reason, you hadn't been paying attention, because that's one of the things that attracted me to you in the first place. Anyway, I haven't read it yet, but I'd like to. Oh, it's written by Elizabeth Wurtzel. I did read her book, Prozac Nation. A Bolt from the Blue and Other Essays. Don't know anything about it. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I read that a couple of years ago and really liked it. It's a good book. Brick Lane. Never heard of it. Brigadoon. Nope. Candide by Voltaire. Nope. The Canterbury Tales. I've read several of the individual tales, but I haven't read the whole thing. Carrie by Stephen King. I've read it, and I really think it's overrated. And I'm not one of these guys who dislikes Stephen King. I just don't think Carrie is as good a book as everybody makes it out to be. Although I don't know why you'd expect it to be a great book. It was his first published novel. Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. No. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Okay, now I loved reading The Catcher in the Rye as a young man when I was like 19 or 20 years old. It really spoke to me then. But when I reread it again about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was, middle-aged man, it just wasn't very interesting to me. I don't know how I'd feel about it if I read it again. Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. I might have read it as a kid. I don't know. I'm not going to give myself credit for it. The Children's Hour by Lillian Hellman. Nope, don't know anything about it. Christine by Stephen King. I thought Christine was a better novel than Carrie. I've read Christine, and I like the John Carpenter movie too. A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Of course I've read it, because I'm a fan of Dickens and I'm also a fan of Christmas. A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. I have seen the film, but not read the book. The Code of the Woosters by P.G. Wodehouse, or Wodehouse, however you pronounce it. Have not read it, although I've got a huge P.G. Wodehouse book in the other room that I'm sure includes it. The Collected Stories of Eudora Welty. No. The Comedy of Errors by William Shakespeare. Yes. I can guarantee you, there's going to be several more William Shakespeare plays on this list, and I'll have read every one of those. The Complete Novels of Don Powell. Don't even know who that is. The Complete Poems of Anne Sexton. No, I hadn't read that, and I'm unlikely to. The Complete Stories of Dorothy Parker. No. The Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole. I have a copy of. It's been highly recommended, but I haven't read it yet. The Count of Monte Cristo is also been strongly recommended to me by none other than the Spaminator, but I haven't read it yet. Cousin Betty by Balzac. No. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. No. The Crimson Petal in the White by Michelle Faber, maybe? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not. You have to remember, I'm just a poor boy from Texas. I haven't read it, though. The Crucible by Arthur Miller. Yes, we read that in high school. Liked it. Cujo by Stephen King. Also a great Stephen King novel. To me, the stuff that he wrote in the 70s and early 80s was his best stuff. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. I know where the phrase comes from. It's from a Sherlock Holmes story. But I don't know what this book's about, and I haven't read it. Daughter of Fortune by Isabel Allende, I don't know. I haven't read it anyway. David and Lisa, nope. David Copperfield I've read. And yes, I loved it. I love Charles Dickens. The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. I have not read The Da Vinci Code, but I've read two of Dan Brown's other novels. I think one of them was titled Angels and Demons. He's a terrible writer. I'm not going to read this. Dead Souls by Nikolai Gogol. Nope. Demons by Dostoevsky. Nope. Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. I haven't read it, but I did see I think it was a made-for-TV movie starring Dustin Hoffman, and it was pretty good. I'm going to take a sip of a drink because I'm getting dry in the mouth. Please forgive me for that. Deanie by Judy Blume. Nope. Although I've read several Judy Blume books. The Devil in the White City by Eric Lawson. I haven't read it, but judging from the cover, I want to. The Dirt by Motley Crue. I bet that's good. It looks like some kind of celebrity memoir. The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. Nope. Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood by Rebecca Wells. Part of me wants to read that, but just based on the title, part of me doesn't. Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. I have read, actually, and really liked it. Driving Miss Daisy by Alfred Uhry. Saw the movie, it was great. Hadn't read the play. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Believe it or not, I haven't read that. The Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. I might have read that when I was a kid. We had a copy of it at the house, but I'm not sure about it. I'm not giving myself credit for it. Eleanor Roosevelt, it's a biography I haven't read. The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test by Tom Wolfe, I have not read. Elemento P by Mark Dunn, I have not read. Kay Thompson's Eloise, nope. Emily the Strange by Cosmic Debris, nope. Emma by Jane Austen, nope. Empire Falls by Richard Rousseau, fantastic novel. If you haven't read Empire Falls, you should. And the miniseries on HBO wasn't bad either. Encyclopedia Brown, Boy Detective, loved it. Read it as a kid, read it later to my daughters when I was a grown-up. Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton, I have not read. The Nicom Ethics by Aristotle, I haven't read. Rick Steves' Europe Through the Back Door. No, I have not read that one either. Ava Luna by Isabel Allende. No. Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer. No. Extravagance by Gary Christ. No. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. No, but I've read a lot of Ray Bradbury books besides that. Fahrenheit 9/11 by Michael Moore. I saw the movie. Didn't even know there was a book. The Fall of the Athenian Empire. No. Fatland, How Americans Became the Fattest People in the World. No, I hadn't read it. I'm probably not going to. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson. Yes, I have read that. And actually, one of the woman I was talking about earlier, who thinks I dumped her for being so opinionated, interviewed Hunter S. Thompson as part of her graduate work. The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. Of course, I've read it 6 or 7 times. Fiddler on the Roof, I have not read. The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. I'm a sucker for that sentimental Mitch Albom stuff. James Joyce, yeah, and I've read it too. Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce. I have a copy of it, but I haven't read it. Fletch by Gregory MacDonald. I might have read it when I was a teenager. My mom had a copy, I know. But I'm not giving myself for credit for anything that I might have read. Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes, I absolutely love and have read several times. The Fortress of Solitude by Jonathan Lethem, or Lethem, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I have not read. The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. No, I haven't read it, probably won't. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, terrific novel. I've read it. Franny and Zoe by J.D. Salinger. I like that a lot, better than The Catcher in the Rye, both times I read it. Freaky Friday by Mary Rogers. Sure, I read it as a kid, but I don't remember exactly. Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut. I've read all of Vonnegut's novels. Gender Trouble by Judith Butler. No. George W. Bush-isms. No, I didn't read that. Gidget. No. Girl Interrupted. No. The Gnostic Gospels. No. The Godfather. No. The God of Small Things. No. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Well, of course I've read that. I even have a joke or two about that. Gone with the Wind. I have a copy of, but I haven't read yet. The Good Soldier, no, I haven't read it. What Kids Wish They Could Tell You, Letters to Judy by Judy Blume, no, I haven't read it. The Graduate, of course I've seen the movie but not read the book. The Grapes of Wrath was one of the first adult books I ever read by John Steinbeck, and I'm still a big John Steinbeck fan. He's terrific. The Great Gatsby, I reread every year by F. Scott Fitzgerald. If you haven't read The Great Gatsby, you can read it in an afternoon. It's wonderful. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, also great. The Group by Mary McCarthy, no. Hamlet, of course I've read several times. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Haven't read either one of them, although I started the Sorcerer's Stone, didn't finish it. A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius by Dave Eggers sits on a bookshelf next to my television, and I see it there every day, and I think, well, I should read that soon, but I haven't read it yet. Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. It's on the same bookshelf, but I haven't read it yet. Helter Skelter, The True Story of the Manson Murders. I think I read that in high school, but I don't remember, so I'm not giving myself credit. Aha, The Henriette. Henry IV Part 1, Henry IV Part 2, and Henry V, all of which are terrific, and all of which I got to see on the stage at the Dallas Shakespeare Festival many years ago. Actually, it was Henry IV Part 1, Henry IV Part 2, and The Merry Wives of Windsor. They did all the Falstaff plays, which was a lot of fun, but they did not do Henry V, but it's going to be pretty hard to top that Kenneth Branagh movie. But yeah, I've read all those. High Fidelity by Nick Hornby, nope. Meant to. The History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, nope. Holidays on Ice by David Sedaris, that looks like a good one. The Holy Barbarians, House of Sand and Fog, The House of Spirits, How to Breathe Underwater. I hadn't read any of those. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, well, of course I've read that. How the Light Gets In, no. Howl and Other Poems by Allen Ginsberg, I doubt I'd like it, but maybe. The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo, I have not read. The Iliad by Homer, I have read. In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, I'm with the Band, and Inferno by Dante, have not read any of those. Inherit the Wind, love the movie, I haven't read the book. Ironweed by William Kennedy, I haven't seen the movie or read the book. It Takes a Village, no, I haven't read it. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, nope. The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan, I read that in a contemporary women's fiction course I took in college. Great place to meet women. I was one of only 2 or 3 men in the class. Julius Caesar by Shakespeare, of course, I've read multiple times. The Celebrated Jumping Frog by Mark Twain, of course, I've read. The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, I have not read, but I was supposed to for a class. Just a Couple of Days, The Kitchen Boy, I haven't read either of those, but I did read Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain, and I've read it twice. Kite Runner, I have a copy but haven't read it. Lady Chatterley's Lover, have not read. The Last Empire by Gore Vidal, I haven't read it, but I really like Lincoln by Gore Vidal. Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman, I've read some of it. The Legend of Bagger Vance, saw the movie, didn't read the book. Less Than Zero, Bret Easton Ellis, I haven't read that one. Letters to a Young Poet, no. Lies and the Lying Liar Should Tell Them by Al Franken is a terrific book, and just as valid and pertinent now as it was when it came out. Life of Pi, I have not read nor seen the movie. Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens, that's a Dickens on the list that I haven't read. The Little Locksmith, The Little Match Girl, Little Women, I haven't read any of those. Living History by Hillary Rodham Clinton, I have not read. Lord of the Flies by William Golding, I've read it. Multiple people tell me that I should love it, but I don't. The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, I've read. The Lovely Blondes by Alice Sebold, I used to carry in my bookstore, but I have not read it. Love Story by Eric Segal, I have read. There was a movie made of it in the 1970s, but Love Story is not the greatest love story on film from the 1970s. Rocky is the greatest love story of the 1970s that's on film. Macbeth, of course, I've read. Madame Bovary, I've read. The Manticore, I have not read. Marathon Man by William Goldman, great movie. Love William Goldman, just hadn't got to it yet. The Master and Margarita, I have a copy on my to-be-read shelf. Memoirs of a Dutiful Daughter, nope, never heard of it. Memoirs of General W.T. Sherman, don't know anything about it. Me Talk Pretty One Day by David Sedaris, nope, hadn't read it. The Meaning of Consuelo, Mencken's Chrestomathy, his own selection of his choicest writings. I didn't know who Mencken was until a few years ago. The Merry Wives of Windsor, of course, I've read by Shakespeare. The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka is one of the only things by Kafka I haven't read. I have read The Trial in the Castle, and there's one other, but I can't remember the name of it right now. Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides, nope. The Miracle Worker by William Gibson, no. Moby Dick, perennially on my to-be-read list, and I've read a good bit of it, but I have never finished it. The Mojo Collection, The Ultimate Music Companion, no. Moliere, a biography, no. A Monetary History of the United States, that sounds interesting, but I haven't read it. Monsieur Proust, nope, I haven't read it. A Month of Sundays, Searching for the Spirit in My Sister by Julie Mars, nope. A Movable Feast by Ernest Hemingway, I want to read that. My ex-girlfriend that I was talking about earlier has a beautiful first edition of it too. Mrs. Dalloway, Virginia Woolf. You know, maybe I should get back with her just long enough to sneak that copy of A Movable Feast out of there. Nah, I wouldn't do that. Mutiny on the Bounty by John Boyne. Seen the movie. My Life 4, A Report on the Massacre and Its Aftermath by Seymour M. Hersh. Boy, that sounds like a drag. H.L. Mencken, My Life as Author and Editor. Nope. My Life in Orange. Nope. Myra Waldo's Travel and Motoring Guide to Europe. Nope. Jodi Picoult, My Sister's Keeper. Nope. The Naked and the Dead by Norman Mailer. I like Norman Mailer. I haven't read that one though. The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. I have sitting right here my copy of The Name of the Rose. Okay, so I'm doing this as a buddy read in the month of September with my friend Grix. And I'm going to be posting a video every Friday about how far along I've gotten. And I believe he's doing the same thing, but he's also doing some pretty serious traveling. So his video schedule might not be the same as mine. I'll be sure to link to him in the description below. The Namesake, nope, hadn't read that either. And we're a little over the halfway mark now. The Nanny Diaries, no. Nervous System or Losing My Mind in Literature. I like the title of that, but I haven't read it. New Poems of Emily Dickinson, no. The Way Things Work, no. Nickel and Dimed on Not Getting By in America. I'd like to read it. Not by Eli Wiesel, Elie Wiesel, something like that. I took German in college. Wonderful book, very short. In fact, Shorty September's coming up. If you're looking for a really good short book to read for that, Night would be a good one to think about. Northanger Abbey, no. The Norton Anthology of Theory and Criticism, not likely to pick that up anytime soon. Don Powell novels from 1930 to 1942, no. Notes of a Dirty Old Man by Charles Bukowski. I think a lot of that was repurposed into the Bukowski book I read a couple of months ago, but I'm not going to count it. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, yeah, I love that. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, old school. My daughters like those books. I never read them. On the Road by Jack Kerouac. I have not read it, but I did read that follow-up novel, The Dharma Bums. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Casey. I've read it, and I've read another Ken Casey novel. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is really good. Good movie, too. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I don't know that I finished that one. I read it in college. Part of me thinks I finished it, but part of me doesn't. I drank a lot in college, so I don't know. Amy Tan, The Opposite of Fate, no. Paul Auster, Oracle Night, no. Oryx and Crate by Margaret Atwood, no, but I do like Margaret Atwood a lot. Othello by Shakespeare, of course. Our Mutual Friend by Dickens, no. The Outbreak of the Peloponnesian War, no. Out of Africa, saw the movie. The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, have not read it. A Passage to India by Forster, no. The Peace of Nicias and the Sicilian Expedition, no. The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. You know, I really liked that. Yeah, I really enjoyed reading that. Peyton Place, I haven't read. The Picture of Dorian Gray, of course, I have read. I liked it better when I was younger than when I was older. Ariana Huffington, Pigs at the Trough, no. Pinocchio, I don't think I've read that. Please Kill Me, The Uncensored Oral History of Punk. Not that interested in punk. I know a lot of people are. Doesn't do anything for me. Probably won't read it. The Polysyllabic Spree by Nick Hornby, hadn't read it. The Portable Dorothy Parker, no. The Portable Nietzsche, no. The Price of Loyalty by Ron Susskind. I guess it's got something to do with George W. Bush. I haven't read it. Pride and Prejudice, haven't read it. Believe it or not, I've never read anything by Jane Austen. Please forgive me, Steve Donoghue. I know you're going to be mad at me about that, but I'll get to it. Property, no. Pushkin, a Biography, no. Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw, yes, and it's wonderful. Quattrocento, no. A Quiet Storm, no. Rapunzel, no. The Raven and Other Poems by Edgar Allan Poe, no. The Razor's Edge by W. Somerset Maugham. Again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not, but I have a copy and I haven't read it. Reading Lolita in Tehran, no. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, I have read. It's good. I'm about to reread it too. Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, no. The Red Tent, no. Rescuing Patty Hearst, no. The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Yes, I've read it. It's wonderful. All three of the books in that trilogy are wonderful. Sue Grafton, R is for Ricochet. I read so many of Sue Grafton's private detective novels that I don't remember which ones I've read and which ones I haven't. I should probably start with A and go through them again. But my mom loved them and had copies of them, so, I read quite a few. I've read a lot of those Ed McBain novels, too. Not that they're related, just that they're related in the sense that my mom liked them. So, Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, of course, I've read several times. I watch the movie at least once a year. Robert's Rules of Order, I might have read it in college, but I'm not sure. Roman Fever by Edith Wharton, no. Romeo and Juliet, I've read it, and I'm going to read it again for Shake Timber, which is coming up really soon. A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf, I have it in there, but I haven't read it. A Room with a View by E.M. Forster, nope. Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin, nope. The Rough Guide to Europe, nope. Sacred Time, nope. Sanctuary, Savage Beauty, The Life of Edna St. Vincent Millay. Daisy Miller, Scarecrow of Oz, I haven't read any of those. The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, I've read it and I loved it. Seabiscuit, American Legend, no. The Second Sex, no. The Secret Life of Bees, no. There's a long list, a lot longer than the 100 on that poster. Secrets of the Flesh, no. Selected Hotels of Europe, no. The Selected Letters of Don Powell, no. Sense and Sensibility, no. A Separate Piece by John Knowles, Wonderful book. Definitely read that one if you haven't. Several biographies of Winston Churchill. No. Sexist. No. The Shadow of the Wind is absolutely terrific. What a wonderful writer. What a storyteller. It's a great book. Shane, I've read multiple times, and you should too. It's absolutely terrific. It was a great June on the Range pick. The Shining by Stephen King is good. Siddhartha by Herman Hesse, that's also good. Sue Grafton, S is for Silence. Don't know if I've read it or not. Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse-Five. I think that one's kind of overrated. Everybody always names that as his best book, but it's no Cat's Cradle, which I think Cat's Cradle deserves top billing for Vonnegut. Maybe it's because that was the first Vonnegut I ever read. Everything else was a disappointment after that. Small Island by Andrea Levy, no. The Snows of Kilimanjaro by Ernest Hemingway, no. Snow White and Rose Red, no. Social Origins of Dictatorship and Democracy. I almost guarantee I'll never read that. The Song of Names, no. Song of the Simple Truth, no. The Song Reader, no. Songbook, no. The Sonnets by Ted Berrigan, no. Sonnets from the Portuguese. I've read some of them, but I haven't read the whole book. I have read Sophie's Choice all the way through and seen the movie. It's great, both the movie and the book. The Sound and the Fury, no. Speak Memory by Nabokov. I have not read that. I have read Lolita, though. Stiff, The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers. No, I haven't read it. The Story of My Life by Helen Keller. A Streetcar Named Desire, no. Stuart Little, no. The Sun Also Rises, no. Swan's Way, I've started, but haven't finished. Marcel Proust. Swimming with Giants, Sybil, no. A Tale of Two Cities, I've read, by Charles Dickens. Tender is the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald, I have not read. Terms of Endearment by Larry McMurtry, I have not read, but that is the next Larry McMurtry book that I'm going to read. Time and Again by Jack Finney, I read, it's great. The Time Traveler's Wife, no. To Have and Have Not by Hemingway, no. To Kill a Mockingbird is another of those books that I reread annually. Richard III, probably one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. And that's on the list for Shake Timber, so I'm going to read that again. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. No. The Trial by Franz Kafka. Yes. God, what a depressing book. The True and Outstanding Adventures of the Hunt Sisters. No. Truth and Beauty. No. Tuesdays with Maury. I'll admit it, I've read it several times. It makes me cry every time. Ulysses by James Joyce. I have it, but I haven't read it. The Unabridged Journals of Sylvia Plath. Those have got to be a drag, man. Uncle Tom's Cabin. I've read it, and I liked it. Valley of the Dolls. I have a copy. Thanks, Steve Donoghue. I have not read it yet. The Vanishing Newspaper, Saving Journalism in the Information Age. No, but that sounds interesting. Vanity Fair, no. The Velvet Underground and Nico, no. The Virgin Suicides, no. Waiting for Godot, no. Walden. Walden's another book that I never get tired of reading. And I wish more of Henry David Thoreau's books were actually still in print and easy to get. Bambi, no. War and Peace, no. We Owe You Nothing. Punk Planet, The Collected Interviews, no. What Color Is Your Parachute? Yes, I have read that. One of the editions, anyway, I don't remember which one. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? Saw the movie, it was really weird. I haven't read the book. When the Emperor Was Divine, no. Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. Yeah, I read that. It came up when I was still in middle management and working for a corporation. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? A friend of mine made me watch the movie. It was really cool, but I have not read the book. Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. No, I haven't read it. The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. Actually, I've read quite a few of the Oz books. I don't remember all of them, but I know I was reading them in order. So I might have read that earlier one, I don't know. Wuthering Heights, no. The Yearling, no. The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. I have read that. And now I get to click on Show My Results. I have read 22% of these books. I read 76 of 339. And according to the List Challenges website, I did better than 89% of users on this list. I beat the average score, which is 51. And so I should point out too, the Rory Gilmore Reading Challenge is not a best books list or some kind of top list of the best books in literature that you could read or anything like that. It's just a list of the books that we saw Rory Gilmore on the Gilmore Girls reading. So that is my Rory Gilmore Challenge video. And I will leave a link to the quiz down below. And I'm going to try to remember everybody I mentioned in this video and leave links to them. And I know that I mentioned a booktube event too. And I'm going to leave a link to one of the announcement videos for that for Shake Timber. So anything to encourage people to read Shakespeare. Anyway, I just thought it'd be fun to go through there and see how I did. I'm actually surprised that I did that well. There are a lot of books on here that I'm interested in reading. There were a lot of books on here that I had no interest in reading. And I'm surprised how many of the books I hadn't heard of, because generally if I haven't read of it, I've at least heard of it. So anyway, I don't know. Thanks for watching. And there's probably more videos coming soon. It's a little bit cooler here in Texas. You know, I think the high today is supposed to be 96, but it's still important to stay hydrated, and it's always important to stay sexy. See you later.